Would you like to do the introduction?
Sure, I'll do it. Because I want.
Okay, so this
Okay,
you want to take this?
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Hi. I get the honors to introduce Shoshi Goldstein. She actually is my personal Torah Rabbanit, and I just want to thank her so much. She really helped me out. I was a chef. Anyway, that you should know, because we have her in Tzfat, you should copyright, and if you need anything in the basement, you should go to her. Okay. Okay, and she's a licensed mentor. She is one of only a handful of Haredi women who appear exclusively before the rabbinic courts in Israel, handling divorce cases. Her previous teaching career spanned over 27 years, during which she taught high school in the U.S. and seminary in Israel. Shoshi's wisdom, humor, and unique perspective have made her a much sought actor speaker. Today she'll be teaching us about Yona. Okay. So excited. I need to make sure that hello.
Hold on one second.
No problem.
It's okay. I don't remember my own name.
That makes sense because you have like 5.
That's impressive. Okay. If we want to talk about what's impressive, it's that it's 7 o'clock and wow. I can't imagine how much nachas HaKadosh Baruch Hu gets from seeing his daughters in a boot camp for Tshuva and giving their whole day to just reflect and learn and prepare themselves for Yom Kippur. It's really, it's incredible. There's a pasuk that I think it's in Yeshayahu that says, "Im yesh ish mevakesh emuna ve'etzlach la." If there's one person who's really seeking emuna, Hashem says, "I'll forgive her. I'll forgive Yerushalayim." And imagine how much slicha and mechila are coming into the world right now from so many women, not just asking about emuna, but spending their entire day seeking out emuna. Yeah, it's amazing. So you're not just bringing slicha, mechila, forgiveness upon us, upon the whole city, upon all of Am Yisrael, upon the whole world. It's an incredible, really incredible thing, and I'm really, really happy, Baruch Hashem, that it worked out that I could join. And after I got the last couple minutes of the previous speech, I'm like, oh my gosh, why did I go to work today? I should have come. It was amazing, just those few words. Okay, so I want to talk about Sefer Yona today. Sefer Yona is read, it's a special haftarah, usually in Mincha. We don't read from the Nevi'im, but on Yom Kippur, we read from the Navi Yona. And if you actually look at the reading from the Torah for Mincha, it's kind of like, why are we reading this now? I remember when we were reading it, I was with my daughter in Shul, maybe my older daughter, in Shul many, many years ago. And, we have the Machzor open and he starts reading and I'm like, oh my gosh, she's gonna ask me a million questions. Because it's all about illicit relationships and what's forbidden from the end of Acharei Mot. The beginning of Acharei Mot, the beginning is talking about the avoda of the kohen on Yom Kippur, but then all of a sudden the topic changes and it's like, why are we talking about this now? Like, Ma Kesher, today's Yom Kippur, we're all angels, we're not even eating, like today is the day that we say Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed out loud. We could scream it because we're angels, and this is not really angelic behavior, what we're talking about here. So, and then we go from there, and then Yona, what's the connection, and why do we read Yona? So first of all, just a side point, everyone likes sgulot. So it's a segula to read Sefer Yona on Yom Kippur as for Parnasa, okay? It's also, by the way, it's just on the side point, I took a group of seminary girls yesterday to Kivrei Tzadikim, and we were at Kever Chavakuk, and one of the things I learned that Chavakuk is also a school to read the last paragraph of Habakkuk, his tefillah, on Yom Kippur. And as I was listening to Mrs. Resnick, who was talking about the chibuk, the hug, and that's the name of Habakkuk, that's where he got his name from. I thought I would just mention that as an additional point. So the Sefer of Yonah is very interesting. It's very different than a lot of other Nevi'im. Usually the Nevi'im have some kind of introduction. This is the Navi, this is his father, this is the time that he gave prophecy, this was the king who ruled over Israel, and sometimes it tells us a little bit more detail. Yonah, there's no details, right? There's the story, it goes right into the story, no introduction, thank you. No introduction, no bio, no nothing. Here's the story. And the Zohar HaKadosh says that the reason is because Yonah is the story of the soul. And Yonah is a story which is not bound by time. It's the story of every single person in every single generation. And it's not just a story that we tell once and we finish it, but that we actually go through this story every single year, and maybe sometimes every single day, and maybe sometimes more than once during the day. So what the Zohar says is that the story, it engulfs the entire span of humanity in this world. And that's actually what Tshuva is all about, and what Sefer Yonah is all about, and that is accepting our humanity, understanding what it means to be a human being, and understanding that part of being a human being is having all these different experiences. So we all know the basic story of Yonah. He's given this nevuah. The nevuah is about Nineveh, this very large city, and very interestingly enough, the prophet, every time it talks about Nineveh, it says Ir Gedolah. It's a big city, Ir Gedolah Admaod. It's a huge big city. It's a metropolis. It's one of the biggest cities that existed, maybe even the biggest city that existed at the time. It's always this big. And not only that, but Nineveh is this extremely corrupt place. And Yonah is given this mission to go to Nineveh, right? Not to be a prophet for his fellow Jews, but to go to Nineveh to give over this prophecy that if they don't shape up, they're going to be shipped out, okay? And Yonah's not interested, okay? Interestingly enough, though, he doesn't argue with God, right? We have Moshe who argues with Hashem about his mission, right? Hashem appears to him in the sneh, and Hashem tells Moshe, Lech el Paro, and he's like, no, nothing doing. Send Aaron, not me. I don't know how to talk. It's not for me. We have Yirmiyahu also who argues with Hashem over his mission. Yonah doesn't argue. He just acts, okay? What? He just runs away, right? That's it. He goes to the ship in Nineveh. It says there, Vayitain Tzchara. The way it worked then was that when the ship was full, then it sailed. And there weren't enough people yet on the ship, but Yonah, he went to the ATM machine, he withdrew all his savings, and he paid for the entire fare for the boat as if there would be a completely full boat, and he's going out. And he goes out to Tarshish. It's not clear where Tarshish is. If it's Tunisia, if it's this place in South Africa where it was very, very difficult to get to, treacherous pathways to go to, and people didn't return from there, okay? So it was the place that he was going away. So Yonah, the word Yonah, it represents the neshama. Klal Yisrael is called Yonah in Shir Hashirim, Yonasi, Tamasi. Why the Yonah? Why are we always called Yonah? We're called Yonah because Yonah is the faithful animal. The Yonah, the dove, is the only animal that always returns to the same mate. It will never mate with a different dove. It always goes back. And they're also, as you all know, right, impossible to get rid of. They always come back. You chase them away. You put up, spikes. You do whatever, put up those CDs, put water bags, put scarecrows, whatever you want. There is no way to get rid of doves, okay? They always come back, and that's the soul. The soul always comes back to Hashem, no matter what. My son, he comes home from the army, with his gun, and he's like, okay, what can I do here? And I'm like, get rid of those birds, right? That is the only way to get rid of it. We wouldn't do that. But you cannot get rid of birds. You can't get rid of it. They're always coming back. And this is the inner soul of a man. This is what the soul is. It's always coming back to God. It's forever attached to God. It's the core of human identity. So now this is so we said that Nineveh is this large, this powerful, super corrupt city, right? Maybe they have all this political stuff going on there. They have all their inner fighting, they have stealing, they have vanity, they have corruption in every area that there possibly is. So this is what happens to the neshama. The neshama is sent into this world on a mission. The neshama is sent into this world as a messenger of God. It is only humans that can recognize Hashem, right? Angels, they're like, computer programs, they're apps. And they're just, they go on automatic. We make a choice by recognizing Hashem. As we say in the Kedusha, where is the place of God's honor? Well, that place is wherever we bring it. Whatever we're conscious when we recognize Hashem, we think about our day. We have from the morning we wake up, where we start with Moida Ani, and everything we do is always bringing us full circle consciousness of a Kadosh Baruch Hu. I don't know if any of you read this book, but many years ago there was this incredible book, I loved it, called Skull Caps and Switchblades, which was about a Chabad Chassid who lived in Buffalo, New York, who was an inner, you read it?
I didn't know
What?
I know the author.
Oh, it's a great book. He was a teacher in the Buffalo inner city high school, okay? And he's a very religious person, Chassid Chabad. And he would run, sometimes when he was running late in the winter, he would have to put on tefillin in the back of the classroom. And one time he took his class on a field trip, and he went to the bathroom, and he makes his brachot out loud. All his brachos he says out loud. So he comes out and he starts making a bracha, Asher Yatzar, right? And his students are like, no way, man, there's a bathroom blessing? Like, they couldn't get over that. Like, there's a bathroom blessing? And he's like, yeah. Also, when I go to the bathroom, I am conscious of God. I am conscious that this is a miracle that is happening in my digestive system. And they just went bananas over that, right? So that's our mission. Our mission is, Rabbi Nachman talks about this concept, the two most famous concepts of Rabbi Nachman, the most fundamental concepts of his teaching are Ayin and Azamra, right? Ayin is wherever you bring Hashem, that's where he is. Develop consciousness, the more consciousness we develop of Hashem, the more we feel Hashem, the more we breathe Hashem, and the more we're fulfilling our mission, and that's our tikkun. Our tikkun is to bring light, holiness, values, and of course, the highest one is consciousness of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So the soul is sent into this world, which is full of corruption, which is full of politics. We know the soul doesn't want to come into the world, right? The soul says, no, I don't want to go. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu says to the soul, the Zohar HaKadosh says, Lech Lecha, you need to go. And this is the world, these are the words that every soul is sent into the world with. Lech Lecha me'artecha u'mimoladecha, go from your place, right? Go from the place under the Kisei HaKavod. And then the soul says, but I can't be a tzaddik. It's not going to happen. Me, I ain't going to do this tikkun, right? Every soul gets its little mission, right? And it self-destructs. So you can't, this mission is yours, whether you like it or not, and it's going to self-destruct, and that's what it is, okay? That's right. That was the Ilui Nishmat Stephen Hill. So that's what it is. And the soul says, but I can't do it. It's not possible. There's so much darkness in the world. The Yetzer Hara is so strong, and today the Yetzer Hara is so strong, right? Because the Kedusha is so strong, the holiness is so strong, and the Yetzer Hara is also so strong. And I can't do it. I can't do it. And the answer Hashem says, Ar'eka, like he said to Avraham Avinu, I will show you. I will show you that you can't do it. You think you can't do this mission? And believe me, any of us, we all said, if you look back at your life over things that happened during your life, you can't believe I did that, right? I was able to overcome that. I was able to make that decision. I was able to grow from that horrible experience. Wow, that's Hashem showing you what you can do, how much potential you have. But the soul doesn't believe it. So Hashem says, Ar'eka, I will show you, and boom, right? Goodbye, good luck. And unfortunately, in the mission, right, that we get, we don't remember it. Okay, when we were born, we don't remember, and it would be lovely if we came with this like little tab, like your mission is to raise this difficult child, right? Your mission is to, live with difficult people who might even be yourself, and seek consciousness of God, right? Like, we don't know what our mission is, and there's no refunds and there's no exchanges, and that's what Yona tries to do. Yona rejects his mission, and he says the soul is rejecting its mission and saying, no, I cannot do this. I don't want to do this, right? I do not accept that I am capable of doing this. All three levels. So each one of us is in essence a messenger. So, and our mission is to be a witness of Elokim Chaim, that there's a living God who's mashkiach, who's watching over everything, who's designing everything, who's a part of everything. We're supposed to be a witness. But as I often find in my work, right, you people do not want to be a witness. Or if they want to be a witness, they agree to be a witness. They want to be a witness in a different trial and not in the one that you want them for, right? So nobody wants to be a witness. Everybody just wants to, oh, don't involve me. I don't want to get involved, right? It's too much for me, or I don't want to take sides, or I don't want. I'm not saying that that's what it is with Hashem. But with Hashem is people also say, you know what? I'll sit on the sideline, right? Okay, I'll let other people do the work. And that's denial. Denial is the first stage that Yona goes through. And it's the first stage that we all go through as our soul begins to wake up a little bit that we actually have a mission. So what do? The soul, though, embarks on a ship, and the ship represents, in the Sefer of Yona, when he boards the ship, it represents the body. So he's in the body, and what does he do, though? Instead of facing the facts, facing the music, however you say it, he wants to run away. He wants to escape. He wants to escape, and this is what we want to do physically and emotionally. And we see with our youth today how much effort they put into escaping. It's just one of the reasons why I stopped teaching after I taught for 27 years. Right, I started my career with your daughters way back in Cincinnati, almost 30 years ago, right? And I stopped teaching because I just couldn't. I felt there was I'm not doing anything. I felt I had become an entertainer instead of an actual teacher because I didn't feel connected to my students. The Macabbi was that one of them was telling me, I forgot what we were talking about, and one of them was telling me about this coat, that she's very jealous that everybody has this coat. I forgot the name. These were American students. I forgot the name of the coat because I don't really care. But the coat cost $1,000. It starts at $1,000. And I'm like, okay, so, and I was just curious, like, how many girls in our class have this coat? Out of 30, I think like 20 have this coat. And I was like, I live in a different planet. Like, I don't know. I mean, that everyone should be so wealthy, how live to have $1,000 coat, but then why don't I make that much money a month for teaching these kids? But besides for that, I just was a tremendous disconnect. And the buying, the purchasing of these coats and the phones and all the addiction that we're seeing today, that the addiction is not just in the younger generation, it's us too, right? It's so easy to get addicted to anything. It doesn't have to be a phone, right? One of my good friends, she was texting me, Erev Rosh Hashanah, Shana Tova, and then she actually called me and I'm like, wow, a real phone call? She goes, yeah, we're not 16. We could have a conversation on the phone. It was great. So we're all, it's fun it's not fun, it's an illusion of fun and an illusion of calmness and an illusion of serenity to embrace these illusions that I could actually run away. But it doesn't work, right? Because we're here for a reason and Hashem doesn't give up on us even when we give up on ourselves. So he's going to keep bringing us back to our mission and our message. I've noticed this pattern throughout my life, right? I moved many, many times. And a few times I moved because I had neighbors that I couldn't deal with, right? The last time I moved because of my neighbors, I don't know what they were doing. They did construction for like 12 months. They lived underneath me. I was positive they were building a tunnel to Gaza. I had no idea, like every day was this drilling and drilling and drilling. And I would make up with her that, like, the day before my son's wedding and the morning after my son's wedding, there would be no drilling, and there was drilling. And then it was like nonstop, like just arguments about this noise, which spanned, I think it was almost a year. So what happens when you try to run away from dealing with it? Well, the next neighbor you have is even worse, right? Okay. When we try to run away from our problems, okay, instead of actually dealing with them. And there are ways to deal with them, okay? Or when we go the opposite, we don't run away, but we run toward self-gratification and addiction, or anything which will keep us, sometimes success. Sometimes we'll run towards success, be very, very driven to be very successful, whether it's in the home or even sometimes in spirituality. Just to share something personal, I'm a very, very big believer in the 12 steps. I'm a long time Coda addict, I think, 12-step meetings addict. I'm addicted to this 12-step. That makes any sense. And at one point I was having this conversation with my sponsor, and all of a sudden I realized this is just a game for me. Like, this is just another way. It was specifically with OA, with Overeating Anonymous. And I had lost a ton of weight, and I was keeping for over 12 months. I did not put one thing in my mouth that was not on my plan. And all of a sudden I realized this is actually the opposite of the 12 steps, right? With 12 steps, it's about hachna, humility. This was, to me, just another game. Instead of being successful in my work, I was being successful in my program. And it was actually completely counterintuitive. I just transferred that dachas, that need to be super successful and to be recognized, right? To come to the meeting every week and say, I was clean, right? I was clean again. I was cleaner than everybody for the longer time. It was just another game for me. And that was a very, very difficult truth to come to, that I was using spirituality, because I do believe that the 12 steps is spirituality. I was using spirituality to actually run away from facing my real issues. And that was and I think a lot of people also, yeah, you know what I'm talking about. That we could sometimes take on chumrot or do certain things, actions that are lacking the real motivation. Like, I'm firmer than everybody, I'm more chesed than everybody, I do, it just ends up being a game. Okay, that doesn't mean that we shouldn't do chesed. It doesn't mean that we shouldn't keep our program on OA or whatever it is. But that's just the point. So what happens is, when we're in denial, the neshama is in denial, we ignore the inner voice of Hashem, which pulsates within us. And we try convincing ourselves that we're happy. Okay? And that's when we get into this very dangerous place. One of the psukim that we said on Rosh Hashanah, Uvo ha'oyedim me'eretz Ashur, v'hanidachim me'eretz Mitzrayim. And all the lost ones will come. The ingathering will take place from the land of Ashur, which Ashur is the same letters as Osher, with happiness. All the people who are living in Lala, happy land, right, who are chasing happiness, they'll come in. V'hanidachim me'eretz Mitzrayim, and all the miskenim, all the nebuch, right, all the people who have fallen and they're in depression, or they're in dochak, they're from Eretz Mitzrayim, from Lashon Mitzar, they'll also be brought back. In other words, there's the people that are chasing happiness and the people that are chasing depression. Both of them will all be part of the intake and all be healed. So here we have, okay, we're in denial, and what does Hashem do when we're in denial? So he sends us turbulence. He shakes us up, because HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't give up on us, even when we have completely given up on ourselves. No matter what, Hashem does not give up on us. And I think that this is the key to recognizing, and the key to healing, is that Hashem doesn't give up on us. The first bracha we say in Shemona Esrei, which is the only bracha that you have to have kavanah on the perush of the milim, on what the words mean. You could say the rest of the Shemona Esrei, you don't have to know what you're saying. But the first bracha of Magen Avraham, you have to know what you're saying. What does Magen Avraham mean? Magen Avraham means that there is a shield around our neshama that can never be broken. It will always be whole. It will always be pure. Just like that Yona, it will always come back. It is what we inherited. It's our inheritance. It's who we are. It's in our DNA. It's in the makeup of our bodies, and it's the makeup of our soul, and it's the makeup of our psyche. That is what it is. Magen Avraham. And the more we remember this, every time we say Magen Avraham, yes, Hashem, you don't give up on me. Even when I've really given up on myself. I just wanna mention that my high school principal, Rabbi Hillel Belsky, Allah Shalom, passed away 2 weeks ago, and really, I don't want to get too emotional now, but originally from Brooklyn, from Memphis. His father lived in Memphis, had a yeshiva in Memphis for many years, and he was in Chicago, and he's been in Israel for the past 26, 27 years, something like that. He was our high school principal. He's the principal of Beis Yaakov High School in Chicago. I came from a family, we were very, very, very B'nai Akiva, very B'nai Akiva. Not like B'nai Akiva, like hang out B'nai Akiva, like idealism of B'nai Akiva. And I wanted to go to, there was two choices. There was either a mixed school or there was Hannah Sachs, which later became Hannah Sachs Beis Yaakov. And I didn't know, I was very idealistic, super idealistic. And I came to the interview wearing a bright red skirt and a matching top. And I didn't even know that, like, I didn't know, like, you don't wear red to Beis Yaakov. Like, why not? Like, it was a long skirt, so anything that's long is good, right? Colors, like, I had no idea. And he accepted me. And I looked back, and I said this to his daughters, and I didn't know how to read Rashi on the first day of school. I remember I told his daughter, who was my Chumash teacher, I said, remember you called on me the first day of school, and I had no idea what you were talking about, to read Divrei Chachamim, and I'm like, huh? And he never gave up on me. He never gave up on me. He got me a tutor to catch me up, because in the elementary school I went to, there wasn't such a focus on Limudei Kodesh, and I didn't pay attention during the Limudei Chol, so I needed a lot of help to catch up. And he never gave up on me. And I said to his daughters, I said, remember, that was me, that I could not read Divrei Chachamim, I couldn't read Rashi, I didn't know what anyone was talking about the first days of school. And today I'm Baruch Hashem, I teach, and everything I teach, all the love of Torah, all the love of Sfarim, everything came really from him. The love, the idea to open up a book. He challenged us. He never told us a hashkafa on a silver platter. I think the word I actually want to use is he provoked us. He used to provoke us into arguing with him, so that he was Rabbi Kibbutz with me also. He would provoke us into getting into halachic discussions and trying to discover what we thought was the right derech in life, and he spoke about authenticity when nobody's, like today, authenticity, everybody uses the word, right? Everyone wants to be authentic. I think that like 60, 70, maybe 80%, I haven't done any like real study on this. When they use the word authentic, they just mean do the same thing as everybody else, but do it better. When he used the word authenticity, he really, and nobody knew like what does it mean authentic? Like a license is authentic, like what does it mean a person is authentic? We never heard of, not just me, nobody ever heard of these concepts when we were in high school, but he was already years ahead of it. And he was himself a very, very, very authentic person, and a very unique, that he was very vulnerable. As a man, and in the 80s, when vulnerability was not in vogue, and certainly not for men, and certainly not for men. Yet he was a very vulnerable, open person. So the reason why I started talking about him now. It's from that it's sitting on my mind. But he never gave up on me. He even, he saw certain flaws in my beliefs about myself, and he tried to explain them to me when I was in 12th grade. He kept calling me into his office, trying to explain to me that I need to fix this. There was a woman in the community who, I don't want to get into the details because maybe somebody knows her, but she needed a lot of help. It was a very, very tragic situation, and she had a young child who was very, very ill, gravely ill, and in home hospice. And I had helped out a lot in the house. I was there a lot. And he tried to explain to me that this wasn't coming from a healthy place, that this kind of giving is not the giving that's not chesed. I'm enabling, I'm doing it for the wrong reasons. He tried to explain it to me and it went woo-hoo over my head. And he didn't give up. He kept trying to explain it to me throughout the entire year. And I want to say now, if I would have understood, they say it takes 40 years to laredet ladat rabo, to understand what your teacher was saying. And it literally took me 40 years to realize what he was trying to tell me. He was telling me years ago that, it wasn't a word that he was saying, you're codependent. And that was before any of the books were written or anything, but he never gave up on me. That's the point. So Hashem never gives up on us. Hashem believes in us. Hashem gives us endless chances to correct and to go back, and he sends us turbulence. So we see that in the Yona's on the boat, and all of a sudden there's this huge storm. And they realize that this is a different storm because the boat a couple meters away, it's all sunshine and everything is fine over smooth sailing over there, and just here, right? So what do the sailors do? The sailors start to panic, okay? Because that's what we do when there's turbulence. The sailors also are having this, freaking out, or whatever it's called. They're also in a certain aspect of denial, okay? Because panic, anxiety, all those things are a great kind of tax that we pay to avoid actually dealing with the issue. So they're all, up in arms about what's going on. And what does Yona do? Goes to sleep. And not just to sleep. It doesn't say who you're shame. He's in a deep sleep, meaning he's in a deep, deep denial. He's in a complete denial, complete cognitive dissonance. The world is crumbling around him and he's snoozing, okay? I have teenagers who are capable of that, but, when that neighbor was doing construction, it was like unbelievable. They're sleeping. How could you? I thought the best benefit, at least I'll benefit, that they'll get up on time for school. No. Okay. So the turbulence, what happens with the turbulence is that one thing we have to understand is the soul is always in movement. The soul is always moving. The soul is never still. It's going up, it's going down, it's going backwards, going forward. It's going always, always moving. So when the turbulence happens to such a degree that we hit rock bottom, the only way up from rock bottom is up, and the soul has to move. So then there's this small awakening, which is what happens when the sailors ask Yona, why are you sleeping? Hello, are you normal? Why are you sleeping? And who are you, Bichlal? And what do you do? And all of a sudden, Yona has this moment, right? And remember, he's biyarkaseh haspina. He's at the bottom of the boat. He's at rock bottom. And the sailors say to him, well, who are you? And he says, well, Ivri anoichi ves Elokim anoichi oivei. I'm a Jew, and my profession is serving God. And their response to that, well, you don't really do a good job because you're sleeping, you're snoozing on the job, right? You ever walk into like the store and the sales girl is, too busy, she's on her phone, right? She's like, could you wait a minute? Hold on. Really? Okay, 1 minute. Yeah. Okay. Hello, right? If this is your profession, then do your job. And so Yona hit rock bottom, but he hits rock bottom again. Because what does he say? Let's just end it all now. Throw me over. I can't do my job. You're right. My tikkun, and we do this all the time. We say, I give up. I know what my tikkun is. I know I'm supposed to fix this. I know I'm supposed to be cognizant. I know I'm supposed to be doing this, but let me just end it now. Let me just forget it. I'm going to give up. Throw me into the sea and I'm finished. And I'll try again in my next Gilgul. And they try to explain to him, right? They try to explain to him, remember your authentic occupation. But he stopped denying who you are, stop trying to escape, resign and surrender. But it doesn't work. So they actually throw Yona off, right? Because he says, just get rid of me. And in a certain sense, he surrenders his spiritual dignity. And this is what we go through this also, where we just say, I can't do this. I just can't, right? I can't work on this anymore. I mean, how many years have I spent on working on anger, working on forgiveness, working on all those bein adam lechaveru things that, okay, you know what? I'm not going to use this phrase, okay? I mean, I remember as a kid, I said certain things that my mom used to say, and my parents listened to every share, so it's okay. There were certain things I said, my mother used to say, I will never say this to my kids. And you know what? Not only do I say it to my kids, I say it 10 times more. I have more kids than my mother did, but I say it 10 times more than my mother did, right? So we forget, we sink, and we're drawn in, and we sink, and we become consumed. We drown, and that's what happens to Yona, right? He's drowning in addiction, in denial. And when he made that decision, when he tells the sailors, throw me over, what he's really actually thinking in his mind is, I'll be free. I'll be free to ignore the presence of Hashem. I'll be free to my obligations of my mission, what I need to do. And then Hashem doesn't give up though. Hashem does not give up on us. And he's swallowed by a daga. Now, the Gemara in Maseches Yoma tells us that this is a reference for he's swallowed by uninhibited desires. Okay? That's what the daga symbolizes, as it says in Bamidbar, Zacharnu es hadaga, asher achalnu chinam b'Mitzrayim. We remember the fish that we ate for free. What free fish? There was no free sushi in Mitzrayim. What are they talking about? They're talking about that they had all these very open, illicit relationships in Mitzrayim, and it was like just accepted that you could do what you wanted to, how you wanted to, with no one looking over you. So the daga also is like the aga, anxiety, okay? So it symbolizes being swallowed up by addiction or by being consumed by anxiety. And then what happens again? Yona hits a new rock bottom, right? He thought he was at rock bottom in the end of the ship, but there's a new rock bottom because the soul is always, a lot of times people in recovery, they get very frustrated because they're like, I hit rock bottom, right? And then they realize, no, that wasn't rock bottom. There's even another rock bottom, there's another layer. Because again, the soul is always in a state of movement. And at that point, Yona does tshuva, and he's committed to doing his mission. And that's when the fish spits him out. But now he comes to a new challenge. And that is that very often, when somebody sees their mission, understands their mission, and begins pursuing their mission to bring consciousness of Hashem in the world in their unique way, they feel very isolated. They want to be alone. They do not want to mingle with other people because they see other people as a distraction, as not understanding them. It's as Rabbi Soloveitchik described it, the lonely man of faith, right? The lonely man of faith, right? That the person who is so conscious, it's hard for them to integrate into society, right? Even if they have a society of other conscious people. But here he's a prophet. He's been through this faith and he's in isolation. But the soul has to learn balance, which is the end of the story, where he does go to Nineveh. He has to interact with the people. He tries to live alone and build himself this little sukkah outside, this little hut outside of Nineveh. And Hashem doesn't give up on him and says, no, you are not going to live the rest of your life as this, hermit, spiritual person. No, you are going to go back to Israel and you are going to continue your mission and you are going to interact with people. And this is the final lesson. Now, there's another interesting, I was debating whether to talk about this today or just to talk about the end. But there's a very strong theme that I'm gonna just touch upon for a minute and then direct you to Rabbi David Foreman has a website called Alpha Beta where he has a long series on this question. And that is the concept of forgiveness. Yona, one of his problems and one of our soul's problems is to forgive ourselves, to forgive other people who've hurt us. Some people feel they can't forgive God for the life that he's given them or for things that have happened to them. The concept of forgiveness is very difficult for the soul. And we see that from Yona. Because why didn't he want to go to Nineveh? The Medrash explains he didn't want to go to Nineveh because he knew they would do tshuva, and in the end, they're going to live happily ever after, and that's just not fair. Okay? It's not fair that they should do all of these horrible things, come to Shul on Yom Kippur, right? Say they're sorry, and that's it. Move on. And so we sometimes are challenged with ourselves. I've done horrible things, X, Y, and Z. Okay? Can I really get forgiveness? Am I really forgiven? Right? One of my favorite piyutim from Leil Yom Kippur, from the night of Yom Kippur, is V'hashiveni salachti. Or we ask HaKadosh Baruch Hu, please just tell me salachti. I want to hear those words. Salachti kidvarecha. I have forgiven you exactly like you asked. And Hashem says that to us on Yom Kippur. That's what Hashem said to Klal Yisrael. Salachti kidvarecha after the Egel. Could you think there's forgiveness for the Chet HaEgel? How could there be forgiveness for the Chet HaEgel? But Hashem says, Salachti kidvarecha. So it would be great if we could hear this baskol that came out and said, I forgive you. Okay? But we need to hear it. And we need to tell it to ourselves, yes, Hashem forgives us. There's actually a halachic debate. Are you allowed to confess sins from previous years? And most poskim say no. Because Hashem forgave you. Why are you talking about it now? It's over. It's done with. Right? You took out the garbage. It's wherever it is. It has nothing to do with you anymore. Okay? You don't own it. It's gone. So there's most halachic opinions say you cannot refurbish old sins. They're gone. Okay? No recycling with old sins. Finished. Gone. Destroyed. Yeah.
No, I actually went further. When things do come up in your mind, you feel something that is lingering.
So I would say that no, it's lingering. You haven't accepted that Hashem has forgiven you. And so forgiving, our soul struggles with forgiving ourselves because our soul is perfect. And our soul wants perfection. But that's not what the soul is really can do in this world. The soul is perfect the way it is. The soul is perfect being human, which is our biggest acceptance on Yom Kippur. To accept, I'm a human being, I sin, we're all human beings, we all sin, we all make mistakes. So when we can learn to forgive ourselves, we can learn to forgive others and extend that. And that's absolutely. And we can expand that. And there's a lot of, there's people in this world who have done things which we would label unforgivable. And there's a big, very, very big theoretical debate. Well, what does unforgivable mean? What does it mean, unforgivable? So something I always tell my son, who he has this concept in his mind that if somebody hurts he's 14. So he has this concept in his mind that if somebody insults him or hurts him, so it's his right to right? To beat the life out of them, okay? Or to do, and I try to explain to him many times, right? No, maybe I don't think that's a good idea. We might end up in Terem together. So I tried explaining to him a million times, right? That if this kid, right, who lives on the other side of Tzfat, or he lives, let's say he lives in Dalton, okay? And he says he hurt you. And you come home from school and you're all like, the next time I see him, I'm gonna catch him on the way to the bus because you can't do it in school because then you get kicked out of school, right? I'm gonna find him on his way to the bus and I'm going to beat the living daylights out of him. So who's stronger, him or you? Well, he is, because he is bothering you 24/7. He's bothering you all the time. And he's bothering you, he's hurting you all the way in Dalto, and you can only hurt him when you're standing right in front of him and not while the teacher's watching and not when there's any cameras and not where there's, right? So who's stronger, you or him? And that concept, I don't know, 14-year-old boys don't seem to relate to that concept too well.
Don't give up on him.
But don't give up, that's right. I'll try. So, what? Exactly. Right. But they somehow the 14-year-old doesn't believe it.
Do it.
Right. Until from the mind to the heart, the Kotzker Rebbe said, is the longest road that exists. So, but we're also like that, right? We give power to people from years ago, right? There was this teacher who really insulted me. When I was 18 or 19, something like that. She really, really insulted me. It was about a shidduch, and she told me, oh, so-and-so called me about you. And I told them that I think that there's somebody more mature. I was so hurt by that. And for years I carried that around until one day I realized, I'm not sure who, forget about who was more mature, like to share that information, not to share that information, it's not exactly the most mature thing to do. But that happened years ago. So I've given this woman, let's say, 10 years of allowing her to hurt my feelings, to limit my perception of myself. Why on earth would I keep re-electing her to be the mayor of my head for again and again and again? Why would I do that, right? And it's like, this is ridiculous. Let go. And it's not easy to let go. I had this incredible experience yesterday where I took this post-high school Israeli seminary to Kivrei Tzadikim. And I do it for years. We go usually Elul this time, I don't know why, it was doing a 30 Tshuva. And I begged the bus drivers to take us to Rabbi Yossi Haglili in Dalton for years. And they all refused. They don't want to go up this, it's too narrow, it's too difficult with the bus, it's no. So this year the driver, he showed up 2 hours late in the morning and he said he's gonna give us some kind of compensation. I said, great, you're taking us to Rabbi Yossi Haglili. And he actually agreed, and Hashem made a miracle that it used to be all this like gravel. They paved it. Yeah. And it's like, it was really easy to get up there, except for the cars coming in the other direction. But it was easier than Amuka. It was really no big deal. And the reason why I wanted to take them to Rabbi Yossi Haglili, because of the story of Rabbi Yossi Haglili. I'll tell it to you very short because I think we're running out of time. Well, it depends which clock you look at. So Rabbi Yossi Haglili was married to his sister's daughter, his niece. And she was a very, very difficult wife. The Gemara in Yerushalayim tells the story. She used to embarrass him and shame him in front of his students. She would mock him in public. And she was always very angry at him. Whatever he did, it wasn't good. And I'm trying not to exaggerate here. I'm trying to only give over what the Gemara says. And one day he invited his chavusa. One day his chavusa, the Arlozoroff ben Azariah, he invited him to come eat lunch in his house. And they come into the house, and his wife sees him, and she has this angry face, and she's really upset. And Rabbi Yossi Aglili speaks nicely, and he says, "Oh, I see you cooked something for lunch. That's so nice. What's in the pot?" And she says, "Vegetables," and she storms out of the house. Rabbi Yossi Aglili goes to serve his guest, and it's not vegetables, it's chicken. And so his guest says to him, he's hinting to him, didn't your wife say that it was vegetables? Like, why would she lie to you like that? Why would she was so angry. And Rabbi Yossi Haglili, he didn't want to talk badly about his wife. So he said, she's such a tzaddik, it's a miracle happened. She puts vegetables in the pot, and out comes chicken. It's amazing. So Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah said, listen, everybody knows what's going on here. This is not a good shidduch. Why don't you get divorced? And Rabbi Yossi Haglili says, because if I wrote her a very, very large sum of money in her ketubah. A ketubah it says obligations from a husband to a wife. It's a prenup. It is a prenup agreement where the husband says, I will I will respect you, I will cherish you, I will support you, and if I decide to divorce, then I will owe you X amount of money. Okay? So Ashkenazim, they're cheap. It's only 200 skukim kesef, but by Sfardim, it could be a million shekels. Okay? There's cases like this in the Beit Din today, where a husband decided to get divorced. It was decided that it was his fault or his will to get divorced, and he's got to pay his wife 1 million shekels. Okay, our Rav Ovadia said not to do things like that, but that doesn't mean what could we do? People do whatever they want. So he says her ksuba is too high. I can't pay her ksuba. So Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah was a very, very wealthy man. Said, I'll give you the money, and that's what he did. He gave him the money. They got divorced. Shortly after they got divorced, his wife remarried the shomer, the watchman of the city. Very shortly after they got married, the watchman fell ill and he became blind. And he could no longer work, and they had no source of income. So they would go around begging, and Mrs. The ex of Rabbi Yossi ben Galili, whatever her name was, she would take her new husband, the watchman, blind watchman, around the city to collect money. But she would never go near the neighborhood where her ex lived. And her husband was very upset because he heard that Rabbi Yossi Haglili, well, he gives out charity, and he gives out a lot of charity. So let's go to him. And she's like, no, I'm not going there. And one day he said, that's it, you are taking me there. And they had a very, very big fight, and it got very loud. And Rabbi Yossi Haglili heard. And he came out, and he gave them a donation, and he single-handedly supported them for the rest of their lives. And when I took the girls there, and whenever I go there, I say that's what it means to let go. That's what it means to let go. To let go of what hurt us, to be able to be mekayim, what it says, from your flesh. And that's we learned this halacha from Rabbi Yossi Haglili, that even once a person is no longer related, once they were once related, we have a higher obligation to give them tzedakah. And that's the hardest, maybe the hardest tzedakah to give. But this is called letting go. So there, I said to girls, let's say together, Hareini mochel v'soleach, what we say every night before we go to sleep. And let's try to mean it. Let's try to think of somebody who we couldn't forgive. And maybe it's ourselves, right? Maybe it's myself. Ribono shel olam, hareini mochel v'soleach. Because the soul has a very hard time forgiving. Yona's Hafgana, right? His protest, his running away. Part of it was, why should Nineveh be forgiven? Why? So they're going to say they're sorry. For 3 days, they're going to fast. And then everything is fine. And we have a hard time believing that also. On Yom Kippur, right? All I have to do is 1 day fast, stay at shul, listen to a chazan who can't keep a tone. And then that's it. I'm forgiven, right? Zeu, akol machuk. And the answer is yes, akol machuk. Even if you don't go to shul, even if you lie in bed the entire fast, and you keep Yom Kippur kehalacha, and sometimes the halacha is you have to drink shiurim, or You keep Yom Kippur Kalacha, whatever that is. Machul. When I was a young mother, I remember a lot of, when I was a young mother, I'm still a young mother, but I'm not a young mother. When I was a young mother, right, and had all these little babies, I used to, of course, I stayed home on Yom Kippur, right? You can't bring a bunch of babies to shul on Yom Kippur. And you have to feed them the whole day because somehow on Yom Kippur, right, kids are always starving, right? It's like there's nothing to, that's their thing. They need to eat and eat and eat. My cousin invented this great thing. She called it fast food and then cereal and milk, right? She gives her kids cereal and milk all day on fast, and that's, fast food for them. So, but they're always starving. And I remember talking to other mothers in that stage, and they were like, oh, I don't feel Yom Kippur. And I said to them, do you know what the most amazing thing is on Yom Kippur? To be a mother and to change diapers. You know why? Because that's what Hashem does. Hashem takes us, right? And we're disgusting, and we're smelly, and we're cranky, and we're annoying, okay? And what does Hashem do? Hashem lovingly cleans us up, gives us, this is the prophecy of Chayer Malachi, it escaped my mind right now, right? Begodim Soin, the Kohen is wearing these dirty clothes. And what does Hashem do? Hashem washes them, Hashem cleans him up. And what do we do when we change the baby also? We give them a kiss afterwards and a little hug. And it's not just change, but it's tickle. And that's how Kodesh Baruch Hu is doing to us on Yom Kippur. There's nothing greater than showing Hashem what we want Hashem to do from us, than cleaning up another little soul and helping them. So, again, Yom Kippur is a time where there's no more cover-up. We're coming clean. We're coming honest. Karov Hashem l'chol karov, Hashem is close to everyone. L'chol asher yikru be'emes, to all those who call him with truth. There's no cut and paste spirituality. There's no cut and paste prayer. Each person, that's what authenticity means, right? That we're putting our own heart into it. We might all say the same words, but we all have different intentions because we all have a different mission, and we all have run away from different things, and we all have run to different things. And Yom Kippur is bringing us back, and Yona is bringing us back and say, okay, center, do your mission, don't isolate, don't run away, and don't deny that forgiveness exists. Tshuva was created before the world was created, because Hashem knew that we were going to mess up. We don't have to expect anything else from ourselves or anybody else. Hashem should give us all a gemar chatima tova. We should have a great year of consciousness, of connection to Hashem, of every salvation, of the whole world. As we say, we're constantly asking that the whole world have consciousness of God. Everything that goes on in this world, everyone should see it clearly, that this is the hand of God. This is the will of God. That's salvation. We should all be zocher to all the Yeshuot and the Gemar Chatima Tova. And thank you so much for having me.
Can I say something? Hello? No, can't say anything. Oh, well.
What do you want to say? We can hear you.
I want to talk to the Rebbitzin. Is she there? Hi, Alka.
Oh, Shoshi. Hi. There's someone on Zoom who wants to say something. It's actually Sophia Ryder. You know?
Hi. That was an excellent speak. Excellent. Can you hear me?
Yeah, now I hear you.
I loved it too. Thank you very much.
That was
Shoshi.
excellent.
Great.
Well, I wanted to tell you something.
It worked out.
Can I tell you something? So my kids, when they would get harassed in school by somebody, I would tell them this person's, can you hear me?